So here we've got 3 new watches that I purchased from Timex. Now this one, based on the code name, I think I know which one this is. This one's going to be waiting for a separate video because it's this pair that I really want to focus on. Now the second I saw these on Timex's marketing email, I couldn't help myself really, because they were a lot like a watch that I already own and quite like. That being this cute little thing. This is the Timex MK1 Mechanical. Now they launched this one maybe 2-3 years back, I think, and it's a pretty good looking little field watch that appeared one day and then kind of vanished straight after. It's almost like they didn't really give it much of a chance. But yeah, this was like a reissue of an older model or something, and it was pretty good, although there was a couple of limitations really. Number one being the colour. This green colour was quite nice and it worked well enough with this strap, but just didn't really go with a great deal else. And also there were a couple of bits like the hands that looked quite cheap, so there was some room for improvement, and it seems Timex also thought so too. They've overhauled the whole MK1 line of watches and released some that look pretty darn good. Now I'll link both of these in the video description. We've got 2 watches and I'll show you what they are right now, Now I purchased both of these with my own money, although I did buy them at a discounted rate thanks to Timex. I'll leave a link to them in the video description. If you want a discount code, you can usually find them in some sort of newsletter sign-up bonus, which is where I learned about both of these. Now let's start on the left, Here we go. Here is the first one. Wow. Wow, that looks like really special. I was a little bit worried about these, to be honest, because when I last looked at some Timex field watches, or at least the last time they refreshed a line of their field watches, it was the Weekender that they decided to do, and yeah, that one didn't turn out quite so well. Just really wasn't feeling that pair. They had this bizarre Wii logo on the bottom center, but these two look much better. Really nice. So we've got the MK1 hand wound on the left, 36mm, and then we've got the MK1 Automatic on the right, which is reportedly a 40mm. And I have to say, these are definitely some of the best looking field watches Timex has made in quite some time, especially this left one. I'm in love with that. Really reminds me of the Hamilton Khaki Automatic, I think it is. I'll put exactly the model I'm thinking about on screen now. Something about it just looks similar in a sort of way. Very elegant and kind of bridges the whole field dress watch thing a bit. Whereas the right one here is much more like a standard field watch design, and it still looks good. They did a pretty good job with the product photos of this watch. The right one here looks a little bit like the likes of a Hamilton Khaki Mechanical a little bit, but it is a fair amount different. Definitely larger numbers around the outside. I'll quickly run you through the specs of these and I'll get you some nice close-ups. So starting off with the hand-wound version, this one normally comes in at £215 without any discount codes, though I just had a pop-up for 15% off straight away on the Timex site. So the movement in here just says mechanical hand wind, it literally just says, so not very specific on that. I anticipate it's most likely some sort of Seagull mechanical. I think that's what was in the last one. It does have 50 meters of water resistance, which is maybe a tiny bit more than I was expecting with this. Reasonable for a field watch. I still feel like 100 meters is like the sweet spot. It's also a simple acrylic crystal, just like last time, and that's partly because they've gone for this big bubble effect shape here. So it's not the typical dome shape, it's more of a boxed crystal, which does tend to be quite a bit more expensive if you want to make that out of sapphire. So acrylic isn't a bad choice, and it certainly suits the look again. I mean, this thing looks stunning. I think this is absolutely one of the best looking watches of the year so far, no doubt. Got a stainless steel case here, which is another change from previous MK1 watches. The MK1 line, I've always quite liked the way that they looked, but the vast majority were made of substandard materials, normally like brass, whereas this new refresh is mostly steel watches. They do also have a much cheaper version of the MK1, but they're made of resin, so really weren't my kind of thing. They were like fashiony watches. Might be to some people's taste, a little bit too bright for me. This has got 18mm lug width there. Really think the strap suits the case perfectly. Let's give you a nice close-up of that dial. It's got a nice black glossy finish. Now at present, I think this only comes in one colour for now. Yeah, just see if we can get you a little look at that. Not quite an enamel finish or anything like that. There is a slight glossiness to it. And in either case, I do think it's better looking than the previous one. And the hands are definitely one of the reasons why. Let's give that a good wind up. Yeah, the hands on the last one just kind of look like pieces of plastic. Weren't bad, but I really like the way that they've redone this version. And unlike the Weekender, whose Wii logo was a bit tragic, I actually really like the MK1 logo on these watches. Think it's extremely well done. Very tasteful on both watches from the looks of it. Aside from that, the case looks extremely similar to last time, but there is some minor differences. On the last one, it had like a polished crown, and then like a section of the side was polished. This one, bit more uniformed. It's got a brushed crown, and then that base section is brushed too, which I think looks better. That is a beauty, it really is. And also pretty thin there. We'll get the measurements now, eh? The widest point, maybe a hair under 36. Lug to lug, about 43 millimeters. And then thickness, including the crystal, but without the strap, about 10.3. But it's actually quite a bit thinner than that. If you discount the crystal, wow, it's almost 7.5 millimeters perhaps there. So actually very thin. I'll give that a try in a moment, but first we'll have a quick look at the automatic. Now this one was getting a lot of attention when they launched this on Instagram. I think it looks good. Don't think it quite looks as good as the other one though. I think I prefer the chapter ring on this one on the left. Looks a bit more subtle. This one looks quite a bit more cluttered because of the larger numbers, but it still definitely looks decent enough. Now this one's standard retail price is about £240 here in the UK. So what's that, about $260, $270 US dollars. So getting it up there a little bit in price. And the specs are quite similar. Just calls the movement a mechanical automatic. So if I can work out what movement this is, I will put it up on the screen. Strap's also different. We've got a two-piece nylon but leather backed band, which feels okay. It also has the quick release tabs, which is good. Yeah, not bad. It certainly suits the look of the watch. Has a bit of that crosshatch texture, which is nice. Also has a peculiar bit on the back here. How is that? A sticker? Oh no, it's actually got like a blue peep window or something on the back. Not sure I've seen that before, at least not on a budget watch. Do like the arrangement of the branding on the rear. So this isn't a screw back actually, at least not in the traditional sense. So the hand wound version just has what appears to be a snapback, but then this one has like a 4 screw arrangement. And the screws appear to be like the triple pronged torque screws, I think they're called. Sometimes find them in tech products. And while it may not give you the water resistance that a typical screw back might give you, it does mean that you can align the branding in an attractive way like this. Quite a peculiar job, but again, do like the branding, just unusual. Wonder what that's exactly meant for. Again, you do have a stainless steel case. It's still an acrylic crystal on this one. As you can see there, big dome on this one. But it's again that boxed crystal look. Might just be me, but I don't think the dial on this one is quite as dark as the mechanical. Yeah, it's hard to tell on camera here, but in person, I'd say the one on the left is maybe 10 or 15% darker, the black. This is more like a really dark grey. It does have a stainless steel case again. Finishing is about the same as the other one. It's actually a little bit plain for a watch at this price these days. The brushing isn't badly done, actually. It's got quite a nice shine to it there, as you can see. Just not the most intricate or complex shape at all. It's also not nearly as thin as the other watch. I mean, partly because it's automatic, I would assume. If I had to guess what they were using in the back of here, I'd probably guess some sort of Miyota automatic. And I do wish that at some point Timex would at least experiment with their own movements. So it's actually hair under 40 mil, 39.8-ish. Lug to lug, 47 mil. Then the thickness might be the only thing really holding this watch back. 13.6 with the crystal, and it is thinner without it. About 9.3, but it doesn't look that thin. Might be a good choice if you got larger arms, I guess, but I think for some that might maybe a bit chunky for a field watch. And the lug width on this is 20 mil. I'll give you a quick close-up of each of these. Now, in a way, these are like an alternative idea or concept to the Expedition North watches that they previously made. If you've seen my stuff before, you might remember they made 2 field watches before. They were under the Field Post banner, I think they called it. And those were more heavily centered around the specs. You had like a solar version, and then a mechanical one. Just had a more of a typical layout, flat sapphire crystal, and at least the solar one was a fair bit cheaper than these two. Whereas these seem to be going for the enthusiast crowd, and for those who like this neo-vintage thing, which is, that's definitely my kind of taste at the moment. I think these watches are both better looking than the Field Post watches, and they're also not a direct, blatant clone of anything. Whereas the previous one, I mean, one of them was obvious replica of the Hamilton khaki. These two just feel like they got a bit more flair, even if the on-paper specs aren't as good. The Expedition North ones also had more water resistance, if I remember rightly. I think they did have the 100 meters. So it's a shame that those specs haven't made the return. Just think this one looks great. Deals with reflections quite well as well. We'll definitely give it a lume test at the end as well, see if that's improved at all with the Timex watches, because lume's never been a strong suit. Doesn't have Indiglow or anything either. The size difference is very palpable between these two as well. As you can see there, it's definitely more like a dark grey, not quite a full black with this one. So legibility actually isn't quite as good on the bigger watch. Doesn't have like a sunburst or anything. It's more like a matte dial, this one. Overall, I think it's still quite attractive. And I like the colour selection and the way they've matched the straps up. Give that a whine there. This one also just has a standard push-pull crown. Does hack though, the movement. And it's got a ghost position under there as well. Now, personally, I've never really loved date windows, so I like the fact that both of these are date-free. I think it just makes them look a bit cleaner, reduces the clutter a little bit. Now, the two of them side by side. Would love to know which one you think's better looking. Either way, let's give them a test out on my skinny arm. I think results here are going to be quite predictable. So there's the hand-wound version of this MK1 on wrist. My wrist is 6¼ inches, and this fits like a dream, really does. Great option for smaller arms. And I've been really lucky recently, actually. I had a couple of great looking field watches that offer something completely different. So this was one that I recently unboxed as well, the RZE Urbanist. This is like your modern interpretation. This is like your throwback one. This one's got the bigger specs and the slightly nicer case, but this one's got that mechanical movement. It's great to have these options. This just didn't exist when I started YouTube about 10 years ago. I feel like this one gives you a lot of that vintage watch look and feel, just with the modern components and materials. Don't have the risk of the watch breaking down on you so much. If I can find out what movement's inside this, by the way, I'll put it on screen now. Yeah, it looks really good. Still quite thin on the wrist, this one. Even with that NATO style band, it actually doesn't sit up all that much off the wrist, this one. And the strap itself feels quite good. Did notice that some of the bits here, well, they're all still matte finish, which is good enough. Some of these bits are actually more like a bead blasted matte finish, so it's not quite an optimal match, although the buckle's okay. But yeah, let's try the 40mm. Now this one's definitely too large for me, which I would have guessed, but I have to say I think it looks slightly better when it's on this one. Still prefer the other watch, but not bad at all. Some of it's probably because I've incidentally ended up matching with my outfit here. Yeah, still a little bit chunky on the wrist, this one. I think my favorite is definitely the other watch. Might be a more viable option if you've got a larger wrist. I think actually if you've got like a really quite large wrist, 7.5, 8 inches plus, this might look quite proportional on you. So it might not be totally out of the equation. Do think that these two watches may be a little bit pricey, especially this one out of the two. Don't think it looks as premium as the other one, surprisingly. I think the other one just looks like it's got a slightly more well-considered design. Now, Timex watches have never really been known for fantastic lume outside of the Indiglow system in some of the battery-powered watches. And it doesn't look like we're getting anything super special here either. The markers, especially on the left one, have died almost instantly. Yeah, in fact, they've both gone now. We're kind of just left with a little bit on the hands, but as you can see, it really isn't anything major there. If you're in pitch black, yeah, you can see them relatively clearly in pitch black. Does look like the automatic version has slightly stronger luminescence though, which is a bit of a shame. Definitely an area for improvement with Timex, no doubt. Overall though, I'm still quite impressed, especially with the watch on the left here. I think that's really a good little bargain piece. Timex definitely should look into improving stuff like the luminescence though on these watches, especially if they're going to be charging around the £200 mark. That's just something that people have come to expect these days. You know, we're not talking about an £80 watch anymore, but I have to say the design team have been on a roll recently. I think these both look visually great. I'll definitely be keeping this mechanical at least for a while in the collection. I'll link both of these below. Excited to see what Timex comes up with next. And surely I'll be unboxing the third and final watch that we have here, which is something potentially even more interesting.